Vanakkam and blessings to all. This is Dr. Bairavee Balasubramaniam, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about the energies of the full moon. Now, today I do not speak to you as an astrologer, but rather as a spiritualist. As I have explained on the little blurb on my Google Plus page and also on my Facebook profile page, I do a lot of things. Astrology is one of my passions. Spirituality is my path and purpose in my life. Political science, my training. And my heart is always and will always, it always has been and always will be with the goddess. So this channel isn't going to just be about astrology, but it will also be about those other aspects of my life. For those of you who wanted to know more about the astrology of this full moon, I think I've said what I need to say in the previous 2 video posts, which you can find on my YouTube channel and also my FB page. Today, I would like to talk about what I've been witnessing, what I've been a part of, and what I feel is the most relevant message to people at this time. I wanted to make this a very different type of post, and I had everything prepared, and finally I couldn't bring myself to post what I had done, only because I think something else is needed now. I have described the energy of Sagittarius, where the moon will be, and Gemini, where the sun is. Both of them deal with freedom at the level of the mind, exploration and adventure in different ways. Jupiter, who rules Sagittarius, is essentially the philosopher king, the adventurer. I think of him as a Indiana Jones type, but with a lot of brains, which he does have. He's a professor, isn't he? Something like that. And Gemini is the sign of the twins. The Gemini is involved in communication, in analysis, in understanding, and loves to explore different topics. It loves to flit around different ideas, finding new ways of seeing the world, and it likes having variety. And both of these are really positive things, if you like using the term. But they can also be manifested in very, very different ways, when energies internally are in balance, or when other elements and aspects in the sky make the energies particularly unpredictable, as it is right now. Now, what happens when you manifest Sagittarian energy in a different way? Jupiter is also known, or rather Sagittarius is also known for excess, for doing too much of something. Sometimes it's, forgetting everything else and just indulging in the senses. And sometimes it's just being overly focused on one idea, or overly opinionated, or idealistic to the point of actually excluding everyone and everything else. I'll explain what that means. For example, if you read something or if you know something, you may assume that it is true. And when faced with a different system of knowledge, the Jupiter acting in this fashion may not see it in an expansive, benevolent way, but it may actually see it as a threat. It may see it as, well, I have to be right, you have to be wrong. And therefore, egos clash, ideologies clash, and divisions are born and binaries are made, and who needs that? Similarly, the way in which Gemini can manifest, and again, it is about ideas, it is about the level of the mind, but it works in a slightly different fashion. Now, Gemini has a lot to do with the power of oration, with what you say, how you say it, what you think, how you communicate it, how you present yourself. There is a reason why it has 2 faces. Now, Gemini manifesting in a different way can also lead to many cases where someone wears one mask in public and then switches it the moment they are elsewhere. Sometimes we do this all the time in life. We're not the same person we are in front of our bosses as we are with our family, for example. But sometimes it can also this kind of shifting masks, this kind of projecting different kinds of personas can also manifest as forms of betrayal. It can manifest as forms of backstabbing. It can manifest as forms of gossip, slander, etc., etc., etc. It is where the use of the spoken word actually is used in ways that do not enhance knowledge, do not facilitate knowledge, but rather limit knowledge. They limit the freedom that they actually seek. So what does it actually mean? It can mean heavy criticism by people. It can mean that people are feeling the need to put down others at this time. It can mean that people are feeling the need to express themselves in ways that seem very, very out of character. And I've seen this happening quite a bit on my pages and sometimes in discussions that I've been having. Again, I'm not saying I'm exempt from any of this. I did see parts of myself coming out which I didn't expect. And I just went, okay, I'm aware of this. What do I do now? And that's where we come to, what do we do now when we're faced with these kinds of challenges? Now, some people are going to sail through this without having to face the level of the ego meeting the mind, and how the mind can actually challenge parts of the ego which are, let's just say, not particularly happy. Now, some people are going to go through those challenges and some people are not, and that's fine. Everyone's at their own level of spiritual development. But what happens when you do have to deal with this? What happens when we call it the shadow side, but I like the dark, I like the shadow, and I don't think that they're evil. So I prefer using a different term. Let's look at those parts of yourself that you haven't quite accepted yet, or that whose existence you often deny. The critic, sometimes the hypocrite, the judgment, the judgmental voice in your head that could have been inherited by generations of people telling you what you could or what you couldn't do, or how you should or how you shouldn't see the world, etc., etc. But I digress a little bit. The real question is, what do you do when those energies come up in this potent astrological time? I explained yesterday that we're having what I like to call the angel wings formation. And I drew a diagram which I did show you, and that is here. Basically, we're having three yods intersecting with one another. A yod, as I explained, is a finger of God or goddess. You could call it a finger of destiny, karma, or fate. And it's a kind of like a dagger-like shape. And the tip of the dagger points to a place in your chart where you will manifest some perceived crisis, where you have to make a key decision point in your life. To have three yods involving major planets, personal planets and transpersonal planets at the same time of the full moon is pretty rare as far as I'm aware. So what does that actually means? That you will be called to make these different types of decisions, critical decisions in different areas of your life. And because these yods are interconnected, one decision impacts the other and so on and so forth, like a chain reaction. But when we actually manifest the energies of judgment, of being hypercritical of self or of other, or being overly rigid and inflexible in our thinking, we fixate our energies on certain parts of the yod, and the potential of the yod is actually blocked. What then manifests is a yod that will be designed to help you break through these particular energetic patterns. And again, it is your choice if you wish to experience them in this way. I thought about what these three decision points mean, and to me, looking at it symbolically, it was the sign of the crossroads. And I thought about it as one who is a priestess, as one who carries the goddess in her heart all the time. That's not to mean that I don't respect the gods in any way. I do. I just love the goddess. I thought about it, and the first goddess that came to mind was the goddess Hecate or Hecate, depending on how you choose to pronounce her name. She is associated with the crossroads and key decisions. She is sometimes shown with three faces, or her familiar Cerberus or Cerebus, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, the hound of the underworld, showed with three faces as well. She is the guide for us in the womb and the belly of the earth if we choose to call upon her as part of our inner journeys. I found this beautiful poem that to me said everything that I needed to know to change my attitudes and my perceptions. And I hope you can see the beauty of what I saw in this poem, and hopefully that will help you see what you're doing as well, and whether or not that's what you really want to be doing at this time. The poem is by Amy Sophia Barashinsky from the Goddess Oracle, and it is dedicated to the goddess Hecate. I sit in the blackness of the dark moon night with my hounds at the crossroads, where three roads converge at the crossroads, the place of choice. All paths lead to the crossroads, and all are desirable, but only one you can travel, only one you can choose. Choice creates endings, and all beginnings come from endings at the crossroads. Which one will you choose? Which way will you go? Which? Though the choice is yours, here's a secret I'll share. The way to choose is to enter the void. The way to choose is to let die. The way to choose is to fly free. To me, that told me everything I needed to know. I needed to let whatever rigid ideas I had about myself or others or the spiritual path to let die. For some people, that may manifest in the form of relationships, attachments that no longer serve them. And that really depends on where you are in your life and your own circumstances. But to me, this just told me the nature of the choice that is being presented to me and the support of a very, very, very powerful goddess at the same time. When I look at the skies, I feel the same energy of, and I look at a chart and I feel it. I don't just look at the chart mathematically. I feel the same sense of we're being called to a crossroad in our lives. We're being called to a key decision and a key point, and we're not doing it alone. The universe has our backs on this one if we are willing to allow ourselves to be embraced by its guidance, love, support, and nurture. So the choice is really yours. Do you want to spend this critical time investing your energy upon energies or behaviors or thought patterns that divide or expand? That's really the choice that you need to make now. Would you like to have to deal with those energies, deal with those perceptions for a few more cycles, or would you like the opportunity to transcend them and go and explore different parts of your spiritual journey? If I had to boil it all down to one sentence, that would be it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.